Hey guys, this is Mr. H. Hey, yesterday I created a video on how to do um, to find inverse functions of almost any kind of function. Today I decided to look at some delta math questions and do a few of those just to demonstrate how I would do it using PEMDAS. So I'm going to do some problems from level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, just to show you how I find inverses. Yesterday, the video I created, I'm going to put a link up in the upper right. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that first and then come back and watch this video. It'll make a lot more sense. So let me jump in. So I'm here on DeltaMath, and I'm going to start with the multi-step function inverses level 1. All right, so first thing you see here is it says you have the function f of x. As I'm doing this, I'm writing this down on my iPad so I can actually show you what I'm going to do over 7, and then they want us to find f of 1. Okay, so I am going to display my iPad on the screen. And now the first thing that I would do is I would just write this as y equals x to the third power over 7. And then we switch the x and the y. So this is x equals y to the third over 7. And then basically this is pretty simple. This is a pretty straightforward one. You would cross multiply by 7. So this will be 7x equals y to the third. And then you take the cube root of both sides. And you're going to have y equals the cube root of 7x. And that would be it. So now let me see what we got for here. Which one would I choose? I would choose this one and submit. And it says wonderful. All right, those are pretty straightforward. Let me see what the next one has. Okay, I'll try this one. All right, so this one is, let me clear this. So now I've got f of x is equal to the fourth root of x plus 6. And they want us to find the inverse function. All right, so this one, I'll share my iPad. So this will be y equals the fourth root of x plus 6. And then we're going to switch. This will be x equals the fourth root of y plus 6. Now I'm going to use the PEMDAS. So there's two operations going on here. The first one is we're taking the fourth root of y. The second one, we're just adding 6. So the inverse would be to raise it to the fourth power and subtract 6. So basically y equals x. I'm going to subtract 6 first. And then I'm going to raise it to the fourth power. And that'll be my answer. Well, almost my answer. That'll be my final answer to the fourth power. And now let's go and see which one matches. I got x minus 6 to the fourth. That's what we had. That's the one I would choose. And it says wonderful. All right, so let's do some more difficult ones. Okay, this one is 5x to the third power plus 5. Find the inverse. So let me write this on my iPad. We've got f of x equals 5x to the third power plus 5. And they want us to find the inverse. So we're going to rewrite this. And then we're going to have, let's see, it's going to be x equals 5, y to the third plus 5. Let me share my iPad now. All right, so I just rewrote it. I got x by itself. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, according to PEMDAS, what's the first thing that we're doing to the y? Well, we're cubing it. That's the first thing we're doing. The second thing, we're multiplying by 5, right? That's this. And then we're adding 5. So now we're going to do the inverse. The inverse of cubing something is taking the cube root the inverse of multiplying is dividing. The inverse of adding is subtracting. We're going to reverse the order. And then we've got y equals x. And so we're going to subtract 5. And then we're going to divide by 5. And then we're going to take the cube root. And that is the function, inverse function. So if I go and look at the choices, it would be the second one. And so I would choose the second one, I would submit it, and it would say, wonderful, way to go. Let's do another one. Let's get a new problem. All right, so we've got f of x. F of x is equal to x to the 1/3 power plus 10. That sum divided by 3. They want us to find the inverse function. And so I'll share my iPad and let's work through it. So we're going to say y is equal to x to the 1/3 power plus 10 divided by 3. And then we're going to switch. So it's going to be x equals y to the 3rd. Let's clean that up a little bit. It's going to be y to the 1/3 plus 10 over 3. Now let's use PEMDAS. First thing that we're doing to the y is we are taking the cube root, or y to the 1/3 power, same thing. And then the second thing that we're doing is we're adding 10. And the reason we're doing that next and not dividing by 3 is that basically this is all basically in parentheses. So we got to do that stuff first, and then we're going to divide by 3. Okay, now we are going to do the inverse. The inverse, oops, this should have been cube root. So the inverse of that is raising it to the 3rd power. The inverse of adding 10 is subtracting 10. The inverse of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. We're going to do this step first, this step second, this step third, and then we will have the inverse. Y equals x multiplied by 3, subtract 10, and then take the cube root, or then cube it, the entire thing, and that's your inverse function. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's see what the choices are. I have 3x minus 10 raised to the 3rd power, so it would be the 3rd choice. Submit it. Let's see what it says. It says wonderful. Okay, let's go to the next level, level 3. Let's do a couple from level 3. Okay, so it says we got the function f of x is equal to 3x to the 1/7 power plus 8 raised to the 3rd power. And they want us to find the inverse function. All right, let's go. So let me share my iPad. All right, so first thing, I'm just going to rewrite it with the y. I might cut the step out. I think you guys get what we need to do there. And then we're going to have x equals 3 to the 1y to the 1/7 plus 8 over 3. Now we're just going to use PEMDAS. And it's going to be the first thing that we do is we're raising it to the 1/7 power. So that's basically taking the 7th root, same thing. And then we are multiplying times 3. So we multiply times 3. And then we're adding 8. And then we are cubing it. So we're raising it to the 3rd power. Now we're just going to do the inverses. So the inverse of a 7th root is raising it to the 7th power. The inverse of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. The inverse of adding 8 is subtracting 8. The inverse of cubing something is taking the cube root of something. We're going to do this first, this second, this third, this fourth. Down below, we have y equals, we got our x. Now change the colors, and we're just going to go by and do each one of these steps. So the first thing we're going to do is take the cube root. Then we're going to subtract 8 from it. And then we're going to divide that entire thing by 3. And then we're going to raise it all to the 7th power. We are done. Kaboomba. Okay, so now I go here. I'm looking for, let's see, it looks like it's the first one. The cube root of x minus 8 divided by 3 raised to the 7th power. Let's see what we got here. Da, 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 da. Perfect. Okay, let's try another one. If you get the idea, you can stop the video. Actually, I should have let you guys try these. So even though I didn't say this, every time I do a new problem, you should stop the video and try it yourself and then compare your answer to my answer. Okay, so let's go. Let's do one more problem from this one. Okay, wow, this one looks a little fishy. So we got f of x equals 4 times the 5th root of x to the 7th divided by 7. And they want us to find the inverse. So, okay, I've written it down on my iPad. There we go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it. Y equals 4 times the 5th root of x to the 7th divided by 7. All right, so we got that whole thing. Now we're going to swap x equals 4 times the 5th root of y to the 7th divided by 7, that whole thing. And so now we're going to do PEMDAS. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to raise it to the 7th power. All right, the second thing that we're going to do is divide by 7. Third thing we're going to do is we're going to take the 5th root. And the fourth thing we're going to do is multiply it times 4, that little bit right there. And now we're going to do the inverses. So the inverse of raising it to the 7th power is taking the 7th root. The inverse of dividing by 7 is multiplying by 7. The inverse of the 5th root is raising it to the 5th power. The inverse of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4. We're going to do this first. We're going to do this second. We're going to do this third. Going to do this fourth. That's 7, by the way. And so we're down here, we got y equals x. And we're just going to do these steps. We're going to divide by 4. We're going to raise that whole thing to the 5th power. We're going to multiply that by 7. And then we're going to take the 7th root. And that's what we get. So let's go and see if one of those matches. Looks like the first one to me again. Looks like the first one. But let me double check to make sure that is all good. Yep, looks like the first one to me. And so I submit it and it says, wonderful, Mr. H. All right, I'm going to go to the last level, level 4. Got some logs now. All right, so let's see here. This one, we've got f of, I'm just going to say y equals, you guys get the idea, y equals 5 times 7 raised to the x plus 7 over 8 power. And they want us to find the, they want us to find the inverse. So let's go. Now, this one, we're going to need a log. So now we're just going to replace the x and the y. So this is 5 times, so we got 7 raised to the x plus 7 over 8 power. All right, so now we're going to do, we're not doing PEMDAS now, we're doing PEMDAS. And what I mean is it's PELMDAS, and that L stands for logarithms. Logarithms come before multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. It's on the same level as exponentiation. All right, so now first thing that we're going to do, we are going to add 7. Oops, I forgot, I made a mistake here. I hope you guys saw that. By the way, stop the video and try this yourself, and then come back and compare your answers to mine. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is add 7. Second thing we're going to do is divide by 8. Third thing we're going to do is we're going to take the log. Oh, well, actually, the third thing that we're doing, we're raising it we have 7 as the base, and we have an exponential function. And then the last thing we're doing is multiplying by 5. So now we are going to do the inverses. The inverse of adding 7, subtracting 7. Inverse of dividing 8 is multiplying by 8. The inverse of 7, base of 7 would be log with a base of 7. And then the inverse of multiplying by 5 is dividing by 5. So we're going to do this first, this second, this third, this fourth. We've got y equals x down here. And now we're just going to divide by 5. That's the first thing. We're going to take, let me move this because I'll need a little bit more room. So now we're going to take the log with a base of 7 of this whole thing. And then we're going to multiply it by 8. And then we're going to subtract 7. And we are done. That is the inverse. So let's go and see what DeltaMath has. I got 8 times the log, x over 5 minus 7. A lot of these are the first one, the first choice. I don't know if that's coincidence or they're just kind of saving us from having to go through the whole thing, but I got that. Let's see, is that right? Absolutely. All right, I'm going to do one more, maybe 2 more. I'm kind of having fun, but if you guys get the idea, you can stop the video. If you want to keep working along with me, you're welcome to do that. So the new problem. All right, we've got, let's get rid of all of this stuff. So we've got f of x equals e with the base e, and we've got the 5th root of x minus 7. So let's go. Let me write this down. I'm going to write it as y equals e in the 5th root x minus 7. All right, so now I am going to show you what I'm doing on my iPad. Of course, take the time, stop the video, try it yourself, come back, check yours against mine. So I've got x equals e to the 5th root of y minus 7. Now we're going to use PEMDAS. PEMDAS is the key. Actually, in this case, it is PEMDAS because we got the logarithm in there. All right, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to subtract 7 because that's inside the 5th root. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually take the 5th root. All right, third thing that we're doing is we've got it raised. We got the base e and we've got all this stuff raised up top. So we're going to do the inverse. So the inverse of subtracting 7 is adding 7. Inverse of the 5th root is raising it to the 5th power. Inverse of the with the exponent with the base of e would be a natural log of that stuff. And we're going to do that first. We're going to do this second, do this third. We know we got y on one side. We're going to have x on the other side. And so the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the natural log of x, and then we're going to raise that. We're going to raise that to the 5th power. And then we're just going to add 7. And we are done. So let's go take a look at what we got here. We got natural log fit. Actually, this one is the last one. It's not the first one because we are we're not taking the natural log. We're not taking the natural log of x to the 5th. We're taking natural log of x to the 5th power. So it would be this one at the very bottom. Submit it. Let's see if I'm correct. I am. All right, I'm going to do one more. And let's see, new problem. Let's see. Yep, we got a good one here. All right, so this one is f of x equals 5 x to the 5th power. Wow, that's kind of weird. To the 9th over 3. So let me show my iPad. All right, so stop the video, try it yourself, come back, compare your notes. All right, let's go. we're going to switch x equals 5 to the y raised to the 5th minus 9 over 3. And now we're going to do PEMDAS. PEMDAS. All right, so the first thing that we're doing is we are raising the y to the 5th power. Second thing that we're doing is we got the base and we're raising all of that stuff. The third thing that we're doing is we're subtracting 9. The fourth thing that we're doing is dividing by 3. Let me go back and make sure that's clear. First thing we're doing is we got y to the 5th. So we're raising it to the 5th power. The next thing that we're doing is we got this base of 5. So I said 5, and we got all that stuff raised up. The third thing that we're doing is we're subtracting that 9. And then the fourth thing that we're doing is dividing by 3. Okay, we're doing those 4 things. So we're going to do the inverse of those 4 things. So the inverse of the 5th power is taking the 5th root. The inverse of an exponent with a base of 5 is a logarithm with a base of 5. And then the inverse of subtracting 9 is adding 9. The inverse of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. We're going to do this step first, this step second, this step third, this step fourth. We know we're going to have y equal to x. And now we just do those steps. We're going to multiply by 3. Then we're going to add 9. And then we're going to take the log with a base of 5. And I'll put that all in parentheses to indicate that we're doing that whole thing. And then we're taking the 5th root of all of that stuff. And there we go. That is our answer. I'm going to try to make this a little prettier. 3x plus 9. That's our answer. Let's go see what they have here. Okay, I've got the 5th root of the log of 3x plus 9. So it's this third one. The 5th root log base 5 of 3x plus 9. And that should be our answer. All righty, guys. If you haven't done so already, go back and watch my previous video on how to set up the PEMDAS, and then come back and watch this, and it hopefully will make more sense. If you have any questions, send me an email or leave me a comment, and I'll try to respond to it as quickly as I can. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Let me see here. Let me stop the record.